pitch. He struck him out. And the Kansas City Royals move on to the division series. And the Kansas City Royals, who lost 106 last year, the most ever by a team that made the playoffs the next year, not only make the playoffs, they march on. And the Baltimore Orioles have lost 10 straight postseason games.
It has been nearly a decade in the making, but the same result. These O's ain't royal. The Kansas City Royals sweep the Baltimore Orioles in decisive yet low-scoring fashion in Camden Yards. And we are heading to the Bronx, baby, for a date against the New York Yankees. Let's go ahead and talk about it. Welcome to the Royals Recap. My name is Jacob Milham. I am joined, as always, by the man who always has a word to say, Jeremy Greco. Jeremy, what are we feeling, man?
Stunned.
Yeah? Is that
absolutely stunned? I know I said that I predicted the Royals to win the World Series as we were beginning the playoffs, but I'm realizing that maybe I didn't actually expect them to win the wild card series. Lucas Erceg threw that nasty changeup to strike out Gunnar Henderson, which is just like, that's the series in a nutshell. Gunnar Henderson strikes out to end the game. But we'll talk more about that in a second. I just sat there like, I was completely stone-faced still, like staring kind of ahead of me, just not able to react because I was so overwhelmed by this. It happened. They won the wild card series.
It is absolutely amazing, and I know we can manifest the best case scenario all we want, but to actually see it happen, to actually be on this side of it, it is a joyous thing indeed. And you could be sharing along with that joy with more Royals fans if you would just go check out royalsreview.com. I haven't checked out the game thread today. I am sure that thing was absolutely popping off with all the good, bad, and beautiful of this Kansas City Royals win. But you definitely want to go there for the game recap, the Royals rumblings, which will be filled with Royals-related headlines and so much more, only at royalsreview.com. Jeremy, I think if we would have told Royals fans a week ago that, hey, the Kansas City Royals only scored 3 runs in 2 wild card games, I don't think that would be surprising. But to go back to them and say,
what surprising is that they won either of those games.
Yes, exactly. That the Orioles only scored 1 run in the process. I think that is what would be the most surprising thing. Hey, and you know what? It wasn't an overwhelming run. Like, the Royals stood up when it mattered the most. Bases loaded, nobody out. The Orioles do not get a single run out of that situation. The only run they scored this entire series is a solo home run. Like, this pitching, man.
It was really good all through September, but they have taken it to another level here in the playoffs. Just the bullpen had to go, what was it, 4 2/3 innings today?
Yeah.
And they had to do it scoreless against the Orioles in Camden.
Angel Zerpa, John Schreiber, Sam Long, Chris Bubich, Lucas Erceg all combine for 5 2/3 shutout innings, only allowing 1 hit in the process and striking out 6 Baltimore Orioles batters. The bullpen still is not allowed to run this postseason. And on the last episode, you talked about a tweet from Rainey, and I got another one here for you. Going back to September 20th, the Royals bullpen has allowed 14 hits and 1 earned run in their last 40 innings. Like, holy crap.
Yeah.
Wow. I was watching the Tigers just decimate the Astros earlier on. I was like, you know what? This is the prime example. You just need to get hot when it matters the most. And this Royals bullpen has done just exactly that. We cannot heap enough praise on that unit, I think, Jeremy.
No, and this was a day where we've said repeatedly, this Royals team, they've got the starting pitching to get it to the bullpen to let only their very best pitchers go. And Seth Lugo pitched it. I don't want to take anything away from Seth Lugo, but he didn't make it through 5 today, and the bullpen had to come in and save him, and they did it. And I want to give all the kudos, not just to the bullpen. I want to give a whole lot of kudos to the bullpen, but I want to save some for Matt Quatrero, who didn't look out there. He didn't come out there and say, listen, Seth, I got to let Seth go 5. I need him to go 6 so that I can only use the guys in my bullpen I can trust. He said, I'm going to, at the beginning of the year, right? We've been talking about this all year. At the beginning of the year, they said, this is a matchup bullpen. Matt Quatrero said, let me show you what a matchup bullpen does when it matches up.
Yeah, that's very true. And another tidbit that I find is very interesting. That is what they said ahead of this season. Well, as you look at that opening day roster, there are only 2 bullpen arms remain in Kansas City, Angel Zerpa and John Schreiber. And those were the next 2 men up following Seth Lugo. Zerpa, he got the win today, and he absolutely deserves it. Okay, yeah. That was listen, I get it. He got a little quote-unquote lucky on the swinging strikeout from Colton Cowser.
That's a nasty pitch, man. That is a nasty pitch.
It is. But he got that ground out that got them out of no outs, bases loaded. The Orioles had every opportunity to absolutely blow this game wide open at that point, and they didn't, thanks to the bullpen.
And I got to tell you, I mentioned yesterday that the story of yesterday's game to me was strikeouts. The Orioles struck out with runners in scoring position, and the Royals didn't. And it was the same thing today. Seth Lugo had runners on in the first 2 innings, struck out all 4 batters with runners on. The Orioles were striking out. When they had runners on, they were not making good contact. We saw in the 5th inning, we saw Anthony Santander pop the ball up on the infield. All he needed was a fly ball, and they would take the lead. And he popped it up on the infield. And then a strikeout, and then the ground ball from Adley Rutschman, who watched a fastball down the middle on a 2-0 pitch. Just watched it. You can't do that if you're the cleanup hitter. You think Bobby Witt Jr. is going to watch that pitch? No way. So it was the Orioles, in a way, did it to themselves.
They did. All signs do point to that as well. And I'm sure that is a good reason why that massive city could not even sell out Camden Yards in game 2 of a wild card series. Listen, you even not even last night, today, you could have gotten into Camden Yards for $16. All right. Imagine telling that to a Kansas City Royals fan in the 2014
Why weren't you there, Jacob?
Work,
close
man.
To Camden?
Work. It's about a 5-hour drive without traffic. So not exactly right around the corner, but within striking range. And I know friend of the podcast, Jared Perkins, was there right behind the visiting dugout. So I am very, very happy for that gentleman. It's all in all, this is what the Orioles lineup left on the table. They left 9 men on base, 0 for 6 with runners in scoring position. They tallied 6 hits on the evening, 5 of those against Seth Lugo. I mean, they could. It doesn't feel like the Orioles lost. It does feel like the Royals beat the Orioles. But there was certainly, I think on the other side of the coin, there's going to be plenty to talk about with what this team didn't do. I want to focus on what the Royals did do, because that is what matters at the end of the day. The Kansas City Royals are the ones still playing baseball. The Baltimore Orioles are the ones going and worrying about their arbitration numbers and promotions for next year right now. That's all they got to think about right now, baby. All in all, Royals total up 9 hits and 2 runs on the evening, 4 walks to 10 strikeouts. Not a perfect evening by any stretch, but they were 2 for 7 with runners in scoring position, just enough. And still, even they left 12 men on base. All right, they had opportunities to blow the game wide open as well. Wasn't it like a stretch where they had bases loaded in 2 consecutive innings at separate times, Jeremy?
That is correct.
I mean, are you disappointed with what they didn't do in this game?
there's two ways to look at it, Jacob. I think you could be frustrated and disappointed that the Royals didn't score more runs, or you could look at it and say the Royals didn't give up a 1-2-3 inning the entire game. They always got at least one runner on. If you're going to consistently get one runner on, you got to score runs eventually. Mm-hmm. So we're going to see what happens in New York. But to me, a big part of the issue with the Royals offense the last month or so has been they just don't get runners on. I know there's a lot that's been made of the fact that when they do get runners on, they don't bring them home, but they're just not getting hits, getting on base at all. Mm-hmm. And so that carries over to when they do somehow get someone on, they still don't hit. But they were getting runners on all day long. Hopefully that will translate into turning into some runs. We saw some really hard hit balls again that turned into outs. It feels like they're this close to breaking out of it and just destroying everyone in the postseason because their pitching will still be their pitching.
Yes. Precisely. I think that is, we know the currency of baseball right now is pitching, because that is something that you can rely on game in, game out. And the bullpen has been reliable through these first two games of the postseason, and the rotation is just going to get better.
At the beginning of September, if I told you the Royals are going to rely on their bullpen in order to win the wild card series, like if the bullpen doesn't do it, they're not winning it. You would have felt really not good about that, right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure. Wild. This is an epic turnaround, but I think there was, for all the good that was in this game, there was one moment that got me choked up, that brought a tear to my eye, and that was seeing not the Royals players on the field celebrating, the Royals coaches in the dugout celebrating. That crew withstood that 106 loss season, trusted the process, and came together, and they sowed and sowed and sowed, and now they are reaping the rewards. And we don't see a whole lot of emotion from Matt Quatrero, but if I'm going to see emotion, celebrating a wild card series win is one good emotion I'll take every day of the week.
Absolutely.
Twice on Sunday. Let's go ahead and run down the lineup real quick, because this top four in the lineup absolutely did great work. Michael Massey having a 2-hit night, 1 strikeout. Bobby Witt Jr. having 2 hits, 1 RBI, and 1 strikeout to his name. Benny Pasquantino really rebounding tonight with some just timely hitting, quality hitting. Go ahead.
I said yesterday I was a little concerned about, the strength that he would bring to the plate. He's still got the eye, but could he hit it hard? He had a single 99.5 miles per hour off the bat. I think it's going to be okay.
Yep, that will absolutely play. And he had 2 hits this evening, 1 RBI, 1 walk, and 1 strikeout. Salvador Perez did have a hit. He did have 2 strikeouts, unfortunately. Yeah, that was... And we'll get to my take Salvi out take later on. But Yuli Gurriel, unfortunately hitless on the evening, did draw a walk. MJ Melendez drew a lot of ire from Royals fans, and unfortunately, rightfully so. He did have a hit tonight, but one of his 2 strikeouts was absolutely a crusher at the time. Renfroe did draw a walk, 1 strikeout. Kyle Isbell had a hit and a run on the night with 1 walk. And then Michael Garcia, hitless, 2 strikeouts from the number 9 guy in the lineup. Jeremy, where do you want to start, man? Do you want to talk about the Orioles continuing to roll the dice against Bobby Witt Jr. and it just hurt them nearly every single time?
I thank them so much for that, but at the same time, I do think that it's reasonable for them to say, yeah, we don't really want to put Bobby on the bases because he's so dang fast. Now, he might not be able to steal a base because he's, for whatever reason, has had trouble stealing bases since late last year. He gets caught a lot, picked off a lot. But you put him on, and suddenly that's an extra run if Vinny or Salvi runs into one, which they're both capable of doing. So I think, and when you're facing, this isn't prime Barry Bonds, who, got on base more than half the time. Mm-hmm. Bobby, you can get him out. You're going to get him out more often than he's going to get on base, at least by the numbers he's had this season.
Yeah.
But when he does get on base, if he does get a hit, it's going to be a dangerous one for you. So I don't know what you're supposed to do with him. I'm glad that they pitched to him. I think that it was ultimately a mistake, but I hope the Yankees make that same mistake and fear his legs more than his lumber.
Hopefully so. And we know Michael Massey is absolutely going to love hitting in Yankee Stadium. Always has, probably always will.
They're going to give him so many pitches to hit because they do not want anybody on in front of Bobby.
Nope, they certainly don't. So that is just more of the value of having Vinny Pasquantino back in the lineup. You just increase those people that you don't want to pitch to, but you have to pitch to in the Royals lineup. I do want to give kudos to the Royals social media team because they knew what fire
tonight.
They knew what they were doing with the Pasquatch tweet on Tuesday, and then now the seats taken tweet.
Oh, I love that so much.
Just for folks who don't know, the Orioles tweeted out something ahead of the wild card series. That it's a graphic that says "seats taken." It's this big throne and just has a little Oriole sitting on it, saying, "Hey, like we are the king here. Don't get it twisted." Well, now after they were swept, the Royals team tweeted that back out. Except it's a flurry of orange feathers with the rightful king, Bobby Baseball, sitting on that throne. I
realized the Orioles had been talking trash.
Yeah. You know what? It's hard to take trash seriously when you can't even sell out your home stadium in a postseason series. Kansas City would never. Would absolutely never.
No, that game 3 will be sold out for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Probably already sold out.
I certainly hope so. And yeah, that is, listen, we'll get to it in a little bit, talking about what is next. How does this look for the Kansas City Royals in the ALDS, the first time that they have gotten there in nearly 10 years, which is insane to think. Also, the Baltimore Orioles have not won a postseason game in quite some time.
Since they faced the Royals in 2014, that's when their streak started. They have not won a playoff game since then.
That is absurd. Absolutely absurd.
If you're an Orioles fan right now, you hate the Royals, and you are Max did a great kind of interview with an Orioles blogger about the series beforehand, and I just love the reminder that as scared as we were of the Orioles didn't feel great about facing the Royals. Other fans see our team and go, oh, we look at our team and we see all the flaws, but they see Bobby Witt Jr., they see Salvador Perez, and they go, oh, man, I don't know about this. They see Cole Reagans, they see Seth Lugo, they see Lucas Ursek. So it's a helpful reminder that, what the other team, what you see in the other team, they see in your team also. It reminds me of Raul Ibanez back in 2014 when he allegedly had a team meeting and he said to everybody, listen, nobody wants to play you guys. You're good. Yeah. They're scared of you. Go beat them.
And later on in the show, you'll hear the response from Salvador Perez because the cameras caught up with him in the champagne shower happening in that visiting locker room in Camden Yards, and it is what a time to be a Kansas City Royals fan. Like, this is we weren't expecting it. Everything else is gravy. I think that I don't think this. I know this. The betting money was the Royals would not just lose the wild card series, but that they would get swept out of the playoffs.
Everyone said it. Everyone said, oh, they're going to get swept out of the wild card game. It was pointless to even get to the playoffs because they're just going to get swept out of the wild card game. Wild card series.
Here we are.
Here with Bobby Witt Jr. and Vinny Pasquantino. Bobby, you just said these shirts don't come around often. What does this win mean to you?
It's just what this team's made of. Just one day at a time, that's our approach, and we just try to control what we can, just try to go one at a time, 27 times, and that's really all there is to it. This group is special here, and we're not done yet.
Bobby, 2 playoff games for you, 2 RBIs. When you signed with this team in the offseason for 11 years, you envisioned a playoff run like this. What does this mean to the city of Kansas City as well?
This is unbelievable. Like I said, whenever we're in the offseason, when we go to FanFest, we want to make a run in blue instead of red. So here we go now. We're making our run.
And Vinny, you're coming back after missing a month. Your second game back, that first inning RBI. How does the thumb feel and how does the swing feel?
Feels great. Both parts of that question feel really good right now. So, yeah, couldn't be happier to be here.
Vinny, you guys get to go this Saturday to Yankee Stadium, face Garrett Cole in Game 1 of the Division Series. What is that experience going to be like for you and this team?
Just keep doing what we're doing. I mean, he keeps saying it all the time. We didn't come this far to come this far. So we expected to come in here and win these games. We did that. Like he just said, too, job's not done. We're going to celebrate this tonight. We're going to have a good time, and we're going to be ready to go on Saturday night.
First playoff appearance for the Kansas City Royals in more than almost a decade. And they're victorious here in Baltimore. Sean, back to you.
Hold on, Annie's got another picture of Bobby Witt Jr. with 2 Budweiser heavies. Oh, let's go. I love it.
Am I the only one who's bummed that the wild card series shirt is the same as the playoff clinching shirt?
To be fair, you don't want to jinx it in the 3-game series. Plus, you know, you got production time and things like that. I just would like a cool shirt
to buy, and that October Ready shirt seems very bland to me.
Oh, trust me, they have 2 games between, or they have 2 days, between now and when they play again. I'm sure they will whip up something real quick to buy in the team store. Which, let's go ahead and turn the page quickly on this wild card win, and let's talk about how does the ALDS matchup look like against the New York Yankees. I don't want to break it down too much because it does feel like we just saw the New York Yankees. I do want to talk about the nitty-gritty of it and how this, you know, how can you watch? When do you watch? Things like that. So as of right now, we have Game 1 on Saturday. Yep. Right? Thursday off, Friday off, going to Saturday. And I want to get your thoughts on how that affects the rotation and the bullpen later on. But the Royals will be at the Yankees. First pitch at 5:38 Kauffman Standard Time on TBS. And then you don't see the Royals again until Monday. Okay, so you have Sunday off again. And now you have Monday where the Royals will once again be in New York. First pitch at 6:38 Kauffman Standard Time. Game 3, 4, and 5 are all TBD, but how that looks is it would be Wednesday, Thursday, and then if Game 5 is necessary, it would be on October 10th, where the Royals would go back to New York to face off against the Yankees. Jeremy, this is...
I believe... Wait. So they play the 5th and the 7th. Then they would play the 9th and the 10th at Kauffman. Going to have that Tuesday off. Then they would have the Friday off for another travel day and play the 5th game on the 12th.
I'm looking at the official release right now, and it's saying they play on the 5th. They play on the 7th. Yeah, this is just an error on their part. Because it would,
well, unless they're not doing days off the same way that they always have. I mean, it's been a few years since I saw playoffs, but they always had days off between for travel days.
Correct. I agree, and it also doesn't make sense where they have Thursday listed here, but that Thursday is October 10th, which they have listed for Game 5 and Game 4. So it's an error on their part. I am sure that you are right, Jeremy, and that the 11th would be a travel day, and they would go back to New York and play on the 12th to wrap up the series if necessary. But we are manifesting a Kansas City Royals sweep once again. I mean, you know, you already did it once. Why not do it again?
The Royals have a storied history in the last decade of sweeping playoff series.
Yeah, obviously. That's the norm, right?
Yeah.
If they get to the postseason, that is what I think they are. I think I saw somewhere like they're 9-1 in their last 10 postseason series. Most of that coming in 2014 and 15, of course.
Yeah.
Jeremy, what I want to get from you, though, is we talked about it at the top of the podcast episode, talked about the pitching as the real value. How does having 2 days off help the Kansas City Royals against the New York Yankees?
Well, I think there's a few things at play here. So, like you said, the first game's going to be Saturday the 5th. So 2 days. Yeah, 2 days. Well, 3 days from now. And I think that if I'm the Royals, what I'm going to do is Cole Reagan's on short rest. He only threw 80 pitches yesterday, and it would be 1 day short rest for him to pitch on Saturday.
Okay.
Then you can have Seth Lugo go on normal rest on Monday. Then you can have Walker go, and he'll have rested for a long time, but them's the breaks in the playoffs on the 9th. And if you have a game 4, Reagan's can go again on regular rest on the 10th. And then Lugo can go again if there's a game 5 on regular rest on the 12th.
Yes.
So that is how I would arrange my rotation. And then I would keep Brady Singer in the bullpen. I would keep Lorenzen in the bullpen. Maybe you take one of those guys off your bench and you get Marsh back in there in case you need some length somewhere in the middle of all that. But that is how I would break down the rotation. The bullpen with off days, you've got an off day Sunday. So Saturday, everybody's ready. Everybody's on deck. Hold nothing back. Then Monday, and then off day Tuesday. Hold nothing back on Monday. And then Wednesday, you maybe hold back a tiny bit, which then you have Thursday, and then you hold nothing back on Thursday, especially because that will either be an elimination game or an advancement game. And then obviously Saturday, you hold nothing back. It's an elimination and advancement game. So really, because of the way they've scheduled this, because they don't want to have a day where there's no baseball, that's why the AL has Sunday off. The NL will also play Sunday, and then the AL will play Monday while the NL is traveling, and then the NL will play Tuesday while the AL is traveling.
Gotcha.
So that's why that's broken up like that. And so with all those days off is 3 off days in the middle of 5 games there. Basically, everyone should be available the whole time.
Which is great. If you're telling me that every single night, no matter the situation, we could have Chris Bubich and Lucas Ursag going in the 8th and the 9th or
and
whatever.
And say I'm long.
Right. So it is, like you said earlier on, it's crazy to think like at this time a month ago that I would be this jazzed about the full bullpen being available. But I am. Yeah. I'm just very excited. This team is doing what it needs to do to win.
The boys are playing the ball.
They are. They really, really are. And listen, these next 2 days it's going to be a lot of scrutiny on this Royals Yankees series. And if you want to get the full deets, the full scoop, you got to go check out royalsreview.com, or the Royals Rumblings in the morning are a must. The game threads, the game recaps, but also the analysis and the history, which there's a lot of history between these two franchises. So there's going to be plenty up at royalsreview.com for you to follow along with. Jeremy, I don't know. It's strange. Like, I'm not worried about the Yankees right now. Genuinely.
I think there's a good reason for that.
Yeah.
Their offense is not as good as the Orioles offense. Yes, they have one of the best hitters ever in Aaron Judge, and they have another of the best hitters ever in Juan Soto, and the rest of their lineup is kind of mediocre. And so when you see the way the pitching has pitched for the Royals against the Orioles, and like I said before that series, you can't take a batter off against the Orioles. Cedric Mullins ended up being the best hitter of the series, batting 8th. You can't take a batter off. You can almost kind of take a batter off against the Yankees, but the way the Royals were pitching, they're not taking batters off.
No.
They're going out there and they're going after these guys. Look, I think we were all worried that the pitchers were looking tired at the end of August, the beginning of September. They look rejuvenated right now. I don't know if it's the extra time off, if it's the playoffs, if it's both. It's probably both. They're out there just spitting fire.
Yes.
So I feel like they could take on any lineup, and the Royals offense is the Royals offense right now. It doesesn't really matter if they're facing Garrett Cole or Zach Eflin. If they scratch 1 or 2 runs across and the pitching pitches like it has been, it's going to be fine. Now, I would like to see them. I think they're probably going to need to score more runs if they want to win that series. But I thought they would need more runs in this series to win it too. So we'll just have to wait and see what happens, I guess.
Yes, we will. Jeremy, I guess I personally wasn't expecting to be doing a full episode this evening. I thought we're going to do another game recap and then, we'll do our full episode on Thursday night. But no, This is it. This is the full episode. So there are some other things that we do need to talk about that affect the Royals. One of the big headlines from today was the news from Diamond Sports Group planning to cut ties with 11 different MLB clubs. Now, if you haven't heard of Diamond Sports Group, that's fine. I understand that, but they own the Bally Sports Networks. Okay, that is how that affects things. So now they have decided to walk away from deals with the Reds, Tigers, Royals, Angels, Marlins, Cardinals, and Rays. So that leaves a lot of teams without any broadcasting rights in 2025. But MLB is stepping up to the plate and taking things over and is going to figure out the broadcasting for each one of those teams. I am interested to see how this looks because MLB doing it for, I think, 3 teams in 2024 is very different for doing it for nearly half of Major League Baseball in 2025. But it is promising. There were ways to get around the blackouts for those teams that MLB was picking up this year. So I'm hopeful that is the same case for Kansas City. I mean, Jeremy, I want to preface this question with saying I don't like the fact that this is affecting a lot of jobs in a field that we care about deeply. We all know and love Rex and Ryan, but frankly, they are, to my knowledge, employed through Bally and not employed through the team.
I think they're employed by the team.
Okay, right. I thought it was through Bally, but I don't have the contract in front of me. All in all, do you think that this is a good thing for the Royals and for baseball, or do you think that this is a bad thing?
So as far as the jobs go, I do feel for those people because there's a lot of uncertainty. I do also, however, think that most, if not all of them, would be rehired by whatever MLB comes up with to you still need the camera crew and the producers. You might as well hire the people who've been doing it. So hopefully that's what will happen. And as far as whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, I think that there may be some growing pains with this, but ultimately I do think it's a good thing. I think the regional broadcasting of MLB games has been to its detriment. I think it's one of the reasons it's fallen behind the NFL and the NBA in popularity because you can only watch your team's games in your area. And then, of course, as we've seen, I'm in North Carolina and I can't get to a Reds game. I can't get to an Atlanta game on the regular, but I blacked out of both markets. And that's the same story all over the place. Iowa people can't watch Royals games. What the heck is that? That doesn't make any sense.
Nope.
They're hours away. But I do think that ultimately MLB taking this over and without that incentive to do the blackouts, because that was always a network thing, not an MLB thing, that they'll get rid of those and it will ultimately be beneficial for the sport and for fans.
Okay. I do think that a lot of this rests upon the not traditional cable, but I am hopeful and optimistic about what's called the direct to consumer options, i.e. MLB.TV is a direct to consumer option. I pay X amount of dollars to make sure that I can watch the Royals. I don't pay the money to watch every single team. I love baseball, but I gotta have financial boundaries at some point. But that is an example of direct to consumer. So I'm hopeful that there is some movement there. Unfortunately, this is another wait and see thing. This is MLB has the playoffs to worry about right now. I'm sure they have people behind the scenes working on this issue and this issue alone, but this isn't going to be the priority for them for probably about a month, I would think. So this is the update. This is what we know right now, and we'll just have to keep it moving and hope for the best when it comes to the Royals. Frankly, it's just one of those, we talk about the Royals being a small market team at the end of the day, and that kind of makes them a lower priority in this situation, I would think. Now, if we have the Kansas City Royals winning baseball, maybe that would change things. I don't know. The on-field product is doing what it can do to help out. Moving on to some news some news down on the farm. We do have some all-stars to be talking about from the Omaha Storm Chasers. So Minor League Baseball today announced the International League Awards and their all-star team with 3 Omaha representatives, Mike Gershelly, Evan Sisk, and Walter Pennington. Go ahead, Jeremy.
Gershelly.
Isn't that what I said?
You said Gershelly.
I said, you're right. Gershelly. Thank you. He was named the International League Manager of the Year, while Sisk and Pennington were chosen as the 2 relievers on the 2024 International League All-Star team. So just think about that. The Omaha Storm Chasers had 2 relievers on that team, and one of them saw one game of action with the Royals. The Evan Sisk thing was always an interesting conundrum.
He'll compete for a spot next year. He
will. I'm not worried about it. He's also 27, which is a little older on the older side for a AAA guy. But he did what he could. He led the league with 58 games out of the bullpen for the Storm Chasers. Had 15 saves, a 1.57 ERA across all those appearances, and 81 strikeouts across 57 innings pitched. He ranked 3rd in minor league baseball in appearances this year, while ranking 4th in the league in saves with those 15. So he was, if you recognize the name but don't know how you do, he was one half of the return for Michael A. Taylor back when the Royals traded with the Twins in 2023, I believe it was, for Steven Cruz and Evan Sisk. Pennington, we all know he's not with the Royals organization anymore. They sent him down to Texas for Michael Lorenzen, who we have not seen yet. We didn't see him out of the bullpen. Yep. Exactly.
Didn't need him.
Nope. Did not need him whatsoever.
I will say, I just looked up Pennington's numbers for fun. He finished the year 16 games, 18 innings pitched, only a K- BB percentage of 7.1%. That's not what you want to see. Less than a strikeout per inning. He had a 3.0 ERA, but a 4.66 Sierra. It does, and he's 26, so he'll be 27 next year. Does feel like the Royals kind of traded 4A depth, even though he looked really good in Omaha. It does seem like maybe they traded 4A depth for a swingman and Michael Lorenzen, who helped the Royals make the postseason.
Correct. He definitely had a bigger role than we would anticipate in helping the Royals down the stretch. All-star honors down on the minor league level are not equivalent to all-star honors at the major league level. For example, these are the Omaha's first league award winners since 2021. And even then, Omaha, they had the pitcher of the year in Jackson Kowar. They had the all-star designated hitter in Ryan McBroom. I mean, these aren't certainties, but these are still great things that these players can hang their hat on.
And the way that all-stars are selected, it's the same as MLB in that way of these guys are selected because of how they've performed, but it doesn't necessarily mean they're good prospects.
Right.
Like Ryan McBroom was not a prospect at that point. He just played really well at Omaha.
He did. And I still remember, I think it was in 2022, I was looking at I can get a signed Ryan McBroom jersey for $20 off of eBay. Maybe I should do that. Maybe I should get that. I never did pull the trigger, by the way. But so congratulations to those players. There are plenty of top tier prospects that were listed on the All-Star team for AAA. And I'm just hopeful that guys like Evan Sisk can make an impact in 2025 and get a fair shot at the major league roster. Jeremy, I've kind of buried the lead on this one because I didn't understand the ire, but you said you did. Royals fans were not a big fan of what Q did later on in the game against the Baltimore Orioles.
I thought we were talking about the bullpen moves. You're going to have to clue me in on what you're talking about here.
No, I'm talking about all the pinch hitters and moving around and shuffling around and things like that.
He was trying to win the game. He was trying to get some extra runs. He put Garrett Hampson in for MJ Melendez because Hampson's fast, and he was going to come in and play left field as a defensive replacement anyways. Apparently he did that last night, and I completely missed it.
Same here.
I think they forgot to mention it on the broadcast is why we missed it. Pretty sure that's what happened. So that's why you put him in instead of Tyrone Blancos, because he's going to stay and play left field. Pinch hitting Pham for Massey was a little bit iffy, especially because Massey had hit off of a lefty already. Mm-hmm. But I don't remember who was pitching at that point. But it was. I think it's defensible as you're getting the platoon advantage there, and you're trying to get anything done, and then Pham gets on, and then you pinch run Tyrone Blanco, who immediately steals second. That was fantastic. And if Bobby had come up with one more hit, they would have had that insurance run we were looking for. But Bobby finally struck out. He was managing the game as if he wanted to win today and not come back tomorrow. And I think that was an appropriate way to manage the game. And it did end up with Tyrone Blanco in left field, but obviously that didn't hurt him. And Garrett Hampson, the one thing he has been good at, despite the dropped fly ball that still pops to the top of my head whenever I think about him, has been a very good defender for the Royals this year. So, and MJ Melendez, it turns out, has not been a good defender overall. I think earlier this year we saw he had some really good numbers, and I went and looked at the numbers today. I was listening to a friend of the podcast, Lux, the Royal Deluxe podcast. And he was talking about MJ Melendez and discovered his outs above average were negative. I was like, well, maybe the Fangraphs metrics like him. They don't like him either. So I think his defensive metrics really fell off a cliff. So you don't want to leave him in left if you don't have to. And unfortunately, Hampson could only play one corner outfield position. So it was up to him. I think the moves all make sense. I don't know what you want me to tell you, honestly.
Yeah, and I think there is room for criticism for Q bringing in Pham when he did, not only for Michael Massey, but I failed to see the analytical edge that bringing in Tommy Pham over Massey at that point would have
platoon advantage
had. Well, so Pham is a right-handed hitter, right? Gregory Soto, who is on the mound at that time and would have had to face Pham. He hadn't faced the minimum at that point. He does, excuse me, sorry. He has a better average against right-handed hitters. He has a 268 batting average allowed against right-handed hitters. Against lefties, he has a 277. Hey, I was getting hung up on his
OPS.
So truthfully, I'm just looking on MLB.com to make sure that I had the most up-to-date information. I'm not seeing his OPS. I do know that his whip does spike against righties. He has a 1.61 whip against righties. He has a 1.50 whip against lefties. So maybe that is what they honed in on. I also know that the broadcast was talking about Q made sure that Hunter Renfroe was in the lineup. Something to do with the pitch shapes from Zach Eflin today. So maybe that was maybe that's another thing that I'm not thinking of when it comes to these pinch hitting decisions.
Lefties hit Soto better in general, but Massey is not great against lefties, and Pham is. So I think that's still where the platoon advantage comes from. Okay. The difference is not there's actually a pretty significant power difference from what the lefties can do versus what the righties can do. But I don't know. If you go either way, I think it's kind of a wash, honestly. Okay. And so just whatever you do is fine, I guess, is what I'm trying to say there.
Gotcha. And I alluded to my not well received take about taking Salvador Perez out of the game after he batted in the late innings there.
I wasn't saying it was a bad take. I was just saying it was never, ever going to happen. You don't pull your captain at the end of a playoff game for no reason.
Fair enough. So the take that I had was, at that time, I think it was the bottom of the seventh. And Salvador Perez was a little ways off in the in the upcoming lineup. And I was saying like, hey, I think the Baltimore Orioles are going to try to get cute and more aggressive on the base paths. I would rather have
to get on the base paths first.
Yeah, and that was the killer. That was the thing that made that take look even more silly. Is like, well, they had to get base runners on to get cute on the base paths, which I think after I made that, they only had one base runner the entire time. So all that to say, I just like Freddie Fermin's arm and preventing stolen bases. I think he does that at a better quality rate than Salvador Perez does this time in his career. I'm not taking anything away from Salvi. I just think Freddie's better at it right now. And that was
statistically,
an edge.
Objectively, he is. But subjectively, they're not going to pull him without a really good reason.
Yep. And I fully agree. It is what it is. Maybe I just need to stop being a nerd and get my nose out of the spreadsheets. Jeremy, that's all I got for Royals related stuff. And truth be told, I don't have a review today. All right. It has just been Royals baseball all the time since the playoffs started. And we recorded our full episode on Monday evening. Well, haven't really had any time to ingest any other entertainment. Do you have a review?
I do.
Okay, let's hear it.
Athletic has been doing a ton of Royals coverage because they're in the playoffs. They're part of the national conversation right now. It's going to continue as they head to the ALDS. If you've got an opportunity to get a discounted or free membership to the Athletic and can read some of those Royals articles, I think, I know we've complained that they got rid of the Royals beat writer and never replaced him. Mm-hmm. But if we go on there and read some of the stuff while they're writing it, maybe that would encourage them to bring someone in. Now, I'm not saying go out and get a subscription if you don't want to, but there's some really good and fun stuff on there. There was a great article about JJ Piccolo's approach to turning this team around that included my favorite part, which was JJ Piccolo admitting that something happened that he didn't plan for, which was that he signed Will Smith, and then Will Smith was out there recruiting all these other players. He was calling Seth Lugo. He was calling Michael Wacha. He was saying, hey, come here and play. He was calling Chris Stratton, which they talked about earlier this season, but then they were asking Piccolo about it. Piccolo says, yeah, I wish I could tell you I knew that's what would happen when we signed him, but that was just a great surprise. So it's like, I just love that he's willing to admit that he doesn't know everything. I feel like that was something that Dayton Moore didn't always want to admit. He wanted to be like, yeah, well, of course, Will Smith, he is the character that we're looking for, and so of course he would do that, and I expected that from him. I feel like that's how that would have gone. I love that. There was some great, there was a thing about Bobby Witt Jr. that was really fun. I don't remember any specifics from it now, but there's Andy McCullough and Rustin Dodd, former KC Star Royals beat writers, both write for The Athletic, and they're both writing a bunch of stuff about the Royals right now. So it's kind of like going back in time to 2014, 2015 and seeing some just really excellent coverage of the Royals from some writers that we miss.
Yeah, I will absolutely take it. I think it was I think it was Andy McCullough who had like a 2-year run with the Star. Yeah. And
the Royals went to the World Series both years he was there, and then he left.
So I'm not saying he should come back to the Star, but I'm just saying there are some quinky dinks there. Thank you for that, Jeremy. And yeah, I do agree. There is, even if it's not just about your team specifically, there is something pretty much always to read about.
Nate
when it
Taylor
comes
writing
to
about the Chiefs is just a joy.
Yeah, it is. It really, really is. So thank you for the review. I guess I'm going to give a preview for what I'm going to be reviewing when we have the podcast next. And I'm going to be reviewing the Post Malone concert. Honey wants to go see Post Malone, who is doing, it's not going to be his greatest hits or nothing like that. It's going to be just his new album, which is all country.
Interesting.
He has country openers. If you've seen the album cover, it has an old truck like falling directly from the sky, and apparently they're bringing the actual truck to all the tour spots.
Okay,
so I'll send you a picture when I see it. We'll see what it's all about.
I'll look forward to that.
Yeah, that's gonna be Friday evening, so I'll let y'all know how it goes. But we are gonna go ahead and get on out of here for the evening. We do have work in the morning after all. This has been the Royals Recap. Thank you for joining us this evening. What
When are we doing our next full podcast? Are we going to do it Sunday? Are we going to wait till after the division series and just keep doing the post game things?
Yeah.
Also, we didn't talk about the fact that the Royals are playing their second division series game at the same time the Chiefs are playing Monday Night Football. It's so painful.
It is. That is definitely painful.
I don't think you're going to get me on the post game show for that one.
I'll be twisting your arm for that one, Jeremy. Don't you worry about it. So I do want to say I appreciate everyone tuning in for the recap that we did last night. I do want to keep this drumbeat. I think it's good. We can sit down and we can digest a little bit more after the series is completely done. So you'll hear from us again after Saturday night's Royals win in New York. And then you'll be hearing from us after every game, whether it's just me, whether it's both me and Jeremy, however that looks, you'll hear from us. And then once the series is over, win or lose, you'll have a full episode from us. Sound good, Jeremy?
Sounds good.
All right. Hey, I appreciate y'all being here. I really, really do. But the folks that make this podcast happen over at royalsreview.com, we're very grateful to them as well. So please go support the good work that's going on over there. Go sign up for an account. Go engage with other Royals fans from all around the world over at royalsreview.com. Once again, he is Jeremy Greco. I am Jacob Milham. Thank you for joining us this evening. And until next time, go Royals.
This seat is taken.